What's happening, all you mentees? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for your advanced look at the Fantastic Four by John Byrne Omnibus Volume 2 from Marvel Comics. So let's get started. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before getting started, I want to give a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on January 24th or 25th, depending on where you get your books. So what we're looking at here is the standard edition cover of this omnibus. So this is the latest printing. It's only been printed twice, so in case you missed out on it the first time. On the left-hand side is your direct market cover. So again, the spine's looking different, but that's something that I wanted to point out. Sometimes they change the spines depending on which cover you get. It's actually been happening a lot lately. So I do this so in case you choose which spine or which book or which cover to get. But let's shift the focus back to this printing here. So this is the latest printing, Fantastic Four. And here are, your new Fantastic Four, I guess. A little bit of a spoiler, but I guess I gotta talk about that here in a little bit. Marvel logo up there by John Byrne. Take a closer look at that spine. Fantastic Four, John Byrne, Volume 2. And Reed and Sue down there. And some of the covers that are gonna be collected in here of the books. The retail price being $125. Here is what it collects. And in case you have the new printing of Volume 1, this is how it will look on your shelf right next to that Volume 1. Now, I mentioned that this was the second printing. It had been previously printed before. So we are going to compare it to the original printing. This is going to be the direct market cover. The spine designs have changed, much like the first printing and latest printing of Volume 1. Whereas this is, the standard, what we used to have. Fantastic Four here. Now they're using the actual Fantastic Four logo. There's usually a picture. And John Byrne, Volume 2. The back, looking actually pretty similar, including some of the fonts. It's a little bit smaller here, though, that they're using. The ISBN's a lot smaller than over here. This time around, you'll notice that it is T+, so Teen Plus instead of just Teen. And I wonder if that's because of the epic here. There's a lot of dark stories in this particular omnibus. Superstar John Byrne's legendary run concludes with one of the most innovative periods in Fantastic Four history. 100% agree with that. This is one of my most favorite run on the Fantastic Four. So let's actually, since this is the old design, I'm pretty sure most of you know what's in here. It's this. Actually, no, I forgot. It was the transition period. So it used to be the faux leather look to it from like the Marvel Masterworks. But since this was the transition period, part of that still in there, like this end paper. But the actual design of the book was starting to change. Now they got rid of that faux look. What am I doing? Because underneath this dust jacket, you have artwork. So you just have the Fantastic Four logo there, omnibus, the spine, and the back of the book. Of course, in the original printing, nothing back there. In the new printing, you have this picture. I believe that's from the annual, if I'm not mistaken, or the wedding. Yeah, the big wedding issue. Okay, so we'll do a comparison here in a little bit. Not just in art, but there has been some changes in this one, which I thought would come just because of the way that they have been shown online through the digital, as some of my viewers have shown me. Okay, so we are going to be talking about some spoilers as to what previously happened. Not going to go into too many details as to how some things happen in this book, but I do have to talk about some minor spoilers. So just in case you don't like any, I'm putting up the banner right now. Spoilers? Alright. Now, we're safe. Now we can talk about things. Alright, let's crack this sucker open. Okay, cracking this book open. And already you can tell that this is different than that marble stone look to the Masterwork. So you have white end paper, Fantastic Four Omnibus Volume 2, with the thing breaking out of the wall right there. John Byrne, Mark Grunwald, Uncanny Omar talked pretty one day. Apologies for that, Mark Grunwald. Roger Stern are the main writers on here. And you'll see Uncle Roger's names for a couple of reasons. One of them not being a good reason, though. John Byrne, Ron Wilson, Kerry Gamble, Mark Bright, Jerry Ordway being the main artist on here. Of course, John Byrne's name taking top billing because he does, oh my goodness, 90+% of this. Here are your inkers, including John Byrne, your colorist here, your letterers, your assistant editors, which are important for a issue here in a second. I think it was Michael Higgins that did that issue in 261. Your editors at the time, the cover art, the variant cover, and the color reconstruction, which is very important with these books. Now, if you're wondering if this is using the new master copies that they've had in the Marvel Masterworks, no, not yet. Well, not yet. Not this version. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said not yet. Here is your table of contents. Interesting that we are kicking it off with Alpha Flight number 4. But that's the same way we kicked it off before in the previous volume. Here, or in the first printing. Man, Uncanny Omar get his words right. Here is your introduction, kind of giving you an idea of what happened previously. In case you don't have the first omnibus, I strongly suggest reading that before reading this, because there are a lot of things from that particular omnibus that get resolved here, and a lot of the setup and a lot of the build-up that John Byrne was doing, playing the long game, happens in here. The big payoffs all take place here. So we kick it off with Alpha Flight number 4, and then this also contains Fantastic Four 261 to 295, Annuals 18 and 19, The Thing 10 and 19, Avengers Annual number 14, and then material from Secret Wars 2. Not number 2, but Secret Wars 2, number 2. Epic Illustrated 26 through 34. What If number 36. What The number 2 and 10. The Thing number 7. So that's not the complete issue, just parts of it. Fantastic Four Roast number 1. And Fantastic Four Special Edition number 1. So that is what's happening here. So we kick it off with Namor asking Sue Richards for some help here, in search for one of the members of the Alpha Flight. And eventually, that leads directly into the next issue. All of this, meanwhile, Reed Richards is missing. So Reed has gone missing because of everything that happened previously with Nova and Galactus. And that big story arc with Annihilus has a huge impact in these early stories in here. So I find this really funny. There's a line in here from Sue, and what is it with people? This is how they said goodbye and hello in the 80s, apparently. But right here, in less than 24 hours, I've bought a house, fought 2 battles, and seen 3 supervillains destroyed. Because there was that big fight with Doctor Doom, so there's all that. I just love that line. But all of this is leading to a huge storyline in the next issue. And it's really interesting because that huge storyline was done through Assistant Editors Month. And this is the exact note that John Byrne left on the cover. Hey guys, I know it's Assistant Editor Month, but let's not do anything too silly on the cover, okay? Love and kisses, John. So what the assistant editors did was decide to just leave that there. Mike Higgins, again, is the assistant editor in this. And John Byrne writes himself and draws himself into this particular story. In such an important story, the trial of Reed Richards. This is when the Shi'ar and a bunch of other races come together to put Reed Richards on trial for saving the life of Galactus, the Planet Eater, and that happened in the previous volume, and you can find out why he did it and how exactly. So they hold a big trial for him. It's one of my favorite Fantastic Four stories. Yes, there's some silly elements in here, like John Byrne adding himself in here, but you have Odin, Odin's in here as well. But it's such a powerful story that I was like, wow, how did they do this through Assistant Editor Month? Oh my goodness. Look at Sue Richards looking all kinds of fine. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, yes. So this is the aftermath of that, of course. Nothing huge happens to Reed because somebody else decides to take matters into their own hand, if you will. And this is the team up between Ben and so the Thing and Mole Man, and they go and rescue Johnny. They're trying to stop this guy from heating up the Earth's core. Meanwhile, Sue is going through some personal things with Reed. They decide to leave the Fantastic Four for a little while and move out to the city. Now, let's see here. This is the Thing number 10. So this leads directly into Secret Wars. And I've talked about Secret Wars and I've talked about the Thing Omnibus. If you want to check out both of those overviews, it's a lot of fun to put all of this together. So if you're reading those and this at the same time, it is a really cool, reading experience because you get to see the overall picture. And I've talked about how Secret Wars was a 12-issue maxi series, but they didn't really have plans on how exactly things were going to pan out. So immediately after issue 264 came Secret Wars, and then you read 265 of Fantastic Four, and we have a new member, but this takes place after the 12th issue of Secret Wars, even though that wasn't out yet, or they didn't really have an idea of how that was going to be written. So this is a little bit of a spoiler, but I think we've talked about it, and some of you know more than others. But the characters of Reed and Johnny and Ben end up going to Battle World, which is where Secret Wars takes place. So it leaves Sue Storm here, and they're gone for about a year. So this is an awesome way to reintroduce these characters. We have the Fantastic Four. This is Freedom Plaza right here. Somebody's trying to break in, and you have the automatic system, the robots in there, taking care and disposing of this villain, including Roberta, who takes care of him single-handedly. And then we see the return home of these characters. Now, when they return back to Earth, it's different. And of course, I'm talking about the cover. And now we have Reed and Johnny and this young lady right here. This is Jennifer Walters. And of course, that is She-Hulk, who becomes the new member of the Fantastic Four, replacing the Thing. So that was a big deal. The Thing decided to stay back in Battle World because he could change back to Ben Grimm. And I talked about that on his omnibus, so I'll just keep going through here because I'm not going to talk about every single thing that happens in here, even though this is one of my favorite omnis. This is a flashback issue of Ben fighting somebody that is, well, trying to take advantage of all the men around the world, or around her. This right here, issue 267, is considered one of the masterpieces in this particular era of the Fantastic Four. It is heartbreaking, it is not fair, and I highly, strongly recommend everybody to read that. It is a beautiful, sad story, and it just shows the desperation and love that this family has for each other. This is the Mask of Doom attacks, and it has a really interesting computer-generated cover. Yes, this cover right here, so picking up after the horrible thing that happened in the previous issue. And then we get into the annual. This annual right here is a big wedding, and this is the big wedding of two of the Inhumans. So it also has a big conclusion, if you will, for the time being, of the Kree-Skrull War. So again, John Byrne, keep in mind when you're reading this, John Byrne was writing, drawing this, penciling, or inking it a lot of the time. But he was also writing Alpha Flight, drawing Alpha Flight. He was writing The Thing. How in the world did he have the time? I don't think that man slept during this particular era. You have the return of Terminus right here. One of my favorite issues is this issue right here with Gormu. It's a flashback issue. It's Reed's birthday, and I love that they don't talk about ages anymore because, why should you? But it's a flashback done with this nice Kirby style of Reed and Sue when they were younger, running into this creature from outer space named Gormu, who looks like a Kirby creature, but this is the first time that character's been introduced. Please correct me if I'm wrong, if he's a creature from, something from the Golden Age. I don't think he was, but I think this is his first appearance. So then we get this big story about the West and traveling through time. And it has a big surprise return of a character that has relations to Reed Richards. And I will leave it at that. This is the crossover with The Thing and the Fantastic Four, where you see Ben battling these monsters. I love this cover right here of issue 260 or 276. Oh, I didn't talk about 275. This is a sleazy magazine publisher. Kind of looks a little bit like Stanley Lieberman there. All right, but anyway, this is I love this cover. This is where Reed and Sue are pretty much leaving, or they're left their homes for the time being, and they're living this secret life in Connecticut when they get attacked by this witch hunter. And we have the return of the Thing when they battle Mephisto. This is also guest starring Doctor Stephen Strange, if you will. And this is when the Thing finds out that after leaving the Fantastic Four, hanging out in Battle World, that his best friend has been dating his girlfriend. And he doesn't take that too well. Plus, there's a huge secret and it's a big secret that makes you think, holy crap, Reed is kind of a prick. Yeah, when you read it, you'll see what secret he's been keeping. Now, during this time, of course, we've had Doctor Doom. We have a brand new Doctor Doom because of the events that happened in the previous omnibus. This Doctor Doom decides to take revenge out on the Fantastic Four by sending Freedom Plaza up in space and blowing it up. So for a while, the Fantastic Four actually stay with the characters of the Avengers. So when they come down, it turns out that there's a brand new hate monger that has taken over. So I do have to talk about these issues right here because, on my channel I talk about how I'm not a fan of censorship and the things that, when art gets changed or when they take out words, because these are products of their time. And in this particular issue and in the next issue, issues 278 and 279, there are words that are blacked out. Now, this is the same way that they handled the discriminatory words in New Mutants Annual or Omnibus Volume 2. They black out, the word. You could probably guess what it is that is being blacked out. This is a really powerful moment because we are talking about the hate monger manipulating people, eventually Sue becoming Malice. But slowly you see a lot of people's inner hate come out. And of course, Johnny just completely loses it. How can people tolerate this kind of hatred? Now, that's not the only place it's done. And it's one of these things with me, like, I understand why they can't do it. Why that needs to be censored. I understand because it is right here too. And down here at the bottom, I believe. Yeah. This is a collector's item. It's $125. When these comics were coming out, they were written for kids. It's kind of weird that was out there. Like, I didn't even think about it, really, that they were accessible to kids back then with those words being written in there. And of course, they are demonizing it. It's evil, right? I mean, they're pushing that envelope in your face that this is wrong, right? Racism is wrong. But the word is still there. And I find that interesting because we always censor curse words in comics during the Comics Code era and up until now. So I wonder why that decision. It's different than using it. I don't know. Maybe it's because God Loves Man Kills is one of my favorite stories, but it's different than using it there when comparing the power of what words do to people. Whereas here, it's like, hey, these people are racist. I'm surprised they didn't use another word even back then. Now, again, I get it, why it's censored, but it's also a collector's item. This is $125. I can't imagine too many kids reading this omnibus and seeing that word in there. But I just wanted to make that known that those are censored out in those two issues. So, let's see here. The original copy, the original printing of this did not censor the word, by the way. And here is Malice for the first time. This is when she makes her first appearance. And I love these issues because this is the coming of age of Sue Storm. Because through this time, she's been known as the Invisible Girl. But the loss that she had, the horrific things that are happening, the manipulation of Psycho Man, she kind of breaks free. And it's really cool because in issues 281 and 282, like, you have all of New York just burning. So you have, like, the Avengers, of course, are guest starring. You have Daredevil that comes into play. This ties into Secret Wars 2, number 2. It is a very powerful story. And then she decides, I believe in issue 284, that she is no longer the Invisible Girl. Yeah, at the end of this issue right here. That everything that has happened to her has changed her. And morphed her into this new person. And from now on, I am the Invisible Woman. I thought that was so in your face about change and everlasting change. And how no matter how old you are, you're always going to be constantly going through struggles. I think there's a lot of those messages in here from John Byrne. Oh my gosh, this issue is right after that. Man, this is another powerful issue, 285. It's about this kid that loves Johnny Storm looks up to him. And it's a heartbreaking issue, so I will just leave it at that. And keep going here. This is the alien invasion with the Skrulls, I believe. This must be from the annual. Yeah, so you get to see this big fight with the Skrulls again in the Fantastic Four annual, from the Fantastic Four perspective, and in the Avengers annual, from the Avengers perspective. And of course, how could I not talk about this issue? Again, it's a little bit of spoilers, but this is a little bit of spoilers for X-Men. So in a previous issue of Avengers 263, I believe, let's see. Yes, Avengers 263, they discover this cocoon. They take the cocoon over to, and it's underwater. They take the cocoon over to Reed Richards. Reed Richards is like, hey, something is definitely in this cocoon. And it's this young lady named Jean Grey. Anybody remember her? She was an X-Men. And this is the big retcon, right? This was the idea of Jim Shooter and all the writers at the time, with the exception of Chris Claremont, because he either wanted to use Sarah or Dazzler for X Factor. But the editors win, and we get the return of Jean Grey. All of these leads into X Factor number 1. And I actually like the retcon. Again, the Fantastic Four hanging out with the Avengers an awful lot, just because they were living there. And we get the more tie-ins with the Beyonder. So the Beyonder is now trying to get a little taste of that human life. But this is starting to wrap up now John Byrne's run. And you can tell, like, even in his art, he's not inking it anymore. His art style kind of changes. This is when Nick Fury and the Fantastic Four go to the negative zone, and they come back, and it's 1936, so he's threatening to kill Hitler when he comes back. And they're like, no, you can't do it. But this story has a big twist to it. And then you get issues 294 and 295. Now, by the issue 294, it is John Byrne just plotting it. Roger Stern comes in as the writer or the scripter. And then 295, it's just wrapping up the story. John Byrne, for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe dispute with editorial, decides to leave. Doesn't wrap up a lot of his stories, and that's it. And then we get the last Galactus story. This was supposed to be longer, and it's not. It's another story that's not finished. It's beautifully done through Marvel's Epic line. They did this, and my gosh, inked by Terry Austin. I was going to say, the only other time that Terry Austin inked John's work in this is in the pages of, yes, Fantastic Four 286. It's a reunion, not just with Jean Grey, but a reunion with Terry Austin. I love that. But Terry Austin does do the inks in here. And it starts with the beginning of the Marvel Universe, and it was going to take us to the end of the Marvel Universe with Galactus and his new herald, Nova. Like I said, you have had to have read Volume 1 to enjoy these stories and hear a lot more. Now we move on to the what ifs. What if the Fantastic Four had not gained their powers? A lot of homages here to the Fantastic Four issue number 1 covers. The what the? Yeah, that is totally not Superman. And John Byrne scripting it and actually drawing some of that. And I'll Be Doomed for Christmas by Lobdell and Byrne. I forgot about that story. And some more backup stories. This are the gag strips from the, what is that, the Marvel Fumetti, I think? Let's see. I just saw that recently in a Masterworks. Yeah, the Fumetti book with John Byrne. Marvel Age, some interviews, just about every cover for trade paperbacks, for reprints, or any issue that the Fantastic, or any member of the Fantastic Four, rather, appeared in that John Byrne drew. They are collected in here. This is one hell of a collection if you're a fan of Byrne and his writing style. This right here, this book takes it into a dark territory. Whereas the first one was like back to the basics. There's a lot of loss in this and a lot of pain in this, and there's a lot of dark stories being told through here. It's a lot different than Volume 1. This is what I mean when I said, the first volume was a little bit of a slow burn, but this one, my goodness, it really starts off strong with the trial of Reed Richards, and then it slowly fizzles out, just because I think by that point, Byrne was just done. Now, this book right here was printed at the iMac printer. Let's look at this eye. And there's that eye with 1,224 pages. Now, what I want to do is compare it to the first volume. I'm not going to compare the words that are blacked out. I've already said that the first printing, sorry, not the first volume, the first printing had those uncensored. I don't need to do that. So I do want to compare the art, the colors, and of course the paper quality, which honestly feels thicker than the Donnelly Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 2. This feels a little bit more like the Thing Omnibus that came out in December. Alright, we have the original printing over here that was printed at the Donnelly printer and the new printing. And I noticed that this right here is a little bit darker than these colors here. And being a fan of Marina, I can tell you that this is the color that I'm used to Marina being. But that could be the paper stock that they're using, and I'll be honest, like, I'm having a hard time to see. Like, this one's a little thicker, or a little more thicker, but not by a lot. I'm serious. And you can even see in this copy of the Donnelly printer that was printed, I believe, my goodness, has it been 2013, almost 10 years? You see some of the art bleed through, as well as the new printing. Actually, just about the same amount. So for people that are like, oh, the new paper sucks and it's letting art bleed through, sometimes that was also the case back then. So yeah, just a little bit of art bleeding through the lighter pages. It's a little bit darker over here. Maybe that's why it's a little harder to see. Let's see. Yeah, see, you can't see anything there. And again, I like to remind people, I don't read these over here with my 2 LED lights. Although sometimes, here, let's do a comparison with this page. What I was going to say is a little sunlight will also let you see some art bleed through. But I don't know. I know it bothers some people and not others. There is more bleed through in this new copy than over here in the 2013 copy. And that's because, yeah, the paper is a little bit thicker than this over here. But as far as the colors, they're a little bit darker in the new printing too. Now, let's just showcase how the book lays over and what kind of gutter loss there is, which is very minimal on actually both of these. But that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking this up, if you missed out on it the first time around, if you already have the Visionaries and you're upgrading, or if you read the single issues, or if this is your first time going in completely blind. Well, I guess not completely anymore if you saw this video, huh? Right. Anyway, if you have any questions, leave your questions down below. Don't forget to smash that like button on the way out. And check out our Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. And on our Patreon, we have different tiers that meet your needs, so check that out. All of those links are in the description of this very video. But that's it for me. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.